POV. It's 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night. The window's cracked open, or maybe you have a fan going, and you're feeling nostalgic. You already know what time it is. It's time to go on YouTube to watch theme songs and clips of your favorite childhood shows. You make it to the Nickelodeon rabbit hole when you inevitably cross paths with the legendary SpongeBob SquarePants. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. Now you find yourself yearning for more, and these YouTube compilations aren't going to cut it. But then you remember, your family, roommates, or friend group got that 30-day free trial of Paramount Plus that whoever made the account is going to forget to cancel. Finally, we can relive all the classics. Sweet Victory, Pretty Patties, the Krusty Krab Pizza, and of course, who could forget the Panty Raid? What? Where's the Panty Raid?
Lame.
Well, I guess we are going to miss the Panty Raid. SpongeBob SquarePants has made some noise on the internet lately, making headlines due to the revelation that Nickelodeon has effectively banned 2 episodes from their platform. One from the classic Season 3, and another from the newer Season 12. Both due to the content present within their stories. Mid-Life Crustacean and Kwarantined Krab. You may not have heard of the latter, as it never got the chance to premiere in the United States, thanks to cosmically terrible timing. Oh, and you know, not as many people keep up with new SpongeBob, me included. I'm not here to just complain about these episodes being removed. Instead, I want to discuss why removing these episodes ultimately does more harm for the SpongeBob brand than good, and how Viacom could take the appropriate measures to preserve these episodes for the public risk-free. Because when it comes down to brass tacks, you can't cancel SpongeBob. Starting with Mid-Life Crustacean, a lot of people are going to cry cancel culture over this episode's removal, but that's where you're wrong, Chief. Nobody riled up some mob to swarm Nickelodeon social media and have this episode scrubbed from the face of the earth. This move was all on Nick. Let's take a little look at this IGN article, particularly Nickelodeon's statement on the matter. A representative from Nickelodeon said Mid-Life Crustacean has been out of rotation since 2018. Following a standards review in which we determined some story elements were not kid-appropriate, when asked which scenes caused the controversy, and if Nickelodeon ever considered a content warning in front of the episode instead of removing it completely, a rep for Nickelodeon said, no comment. The contents of this episode was reevaluated years ago, not being seen on television since. Of course, most people aren't even thinking about that. Cable's falling off anyways. But this isn't as new of a development as one may think, since I imagine most would assume that this decision is following the pattern of other companies removing episodes from their services for one reason or another. And although the Nick representative didn't divulge too much information on what they found inappropriate for kids, come on, we know it was the Panty Raid. Honestly, I have mixed feelings on this. As a kid, I had no clue what a Panty Raid was. The concept of what they were doing went over my head. I just saw underwear. And of course, toilet humor and tropes such as wedgies from a bully were everywhere in the 2000s, so that was the only connection my brain made. Of course, SpongeBob, Patrick, and Krabs have their comeuppance for the act. Mr. Krabs even gets grounded. So I would argue that the kids at home watching would walk away from it knowing not to partake in a panty raid. However, not every kid is the same, and this doesn't negate what a panty raid is. While I'm sure they wrote this for the adult viewers to have a good laugh, it's the climax of the episode. I don't know about y'all, but even with youthful ignorance, panty raids probably aren't something a 6 to 11-year-old should be exposed to. And unlike 2002, more kids have access to a smartphone and the internet than ever before. If they're curious enough, they'll Google what it is. And that exposure may come without a moral. So maybe the episode just didn't age well. But when things don't age well, the answer isn't always going to be burying them. Especially in SpongeBob's case. A series that had interest from people of all ages from the jump. Not to mention, another episode got caught in the crossfire. The Great Snail Race. Rocky, my beloved, you can rest. Because The Great Snail Race serves as the companion piece to Mid-Life Crustacean, it's been removed from streaming options such as Amazon Prime, although it's still available on Paramount Plus. Its current status on television remains unknown. When unproblematic episodes get punished as a result of a decision, you've probably gone too far. It harms SpongeBob as a product, losing recognition from the hard work the old team put into these episodes. And in terms of profit, it harms Viacom as well. People can't throw money at them to buy the episode, aside from the complete season pass on iTunes. And we live in an age where people will boycott a streaming service over just about anything. Because who wants to pay money for an incomplete experience? So, what to do? Simple. Anything else? Fam, you know those first 3 seasons are watched by people of all ages. If not, maybe more adults now than children. If one episode ends up aging not too well with the current times, but also happens to lean more into that adult audience without being full-blown inappropriate, you can adjust things around the episode to inform the viewer of what to expect. Not to mention, there is a bit of a double standard at play. Oh, you can't keep the panty raid, but you can keep the mountain of iCarly, Drake and Josh, and Victorious episodes with tons of innuendos, suggestive situations, and the word boobs.
She can't get her boobs in the hamburger.
Pardon? For an example of how to handle this, you can simply re-rate the episode instead of dropping it entirely. And I know this is feasible because the entire series was re-rated years ago. Remember the early 2000s when quite a bit of Nickelodeon animated series aired as TVY programming? This episode was TVY when it first premiered. It wasn't until 2007 where Nickelodeon reevaluated their catalog and bumped up their TVY programming up to TVY 7, aside from Nick Jr. of course. So what's stopping Nickelodeon from re-rating older episodes, if not the first few seasons entirely, just to cover their bases? Bump them up to TVPG. Parental guidance. That one simple thing suddenly takes it out of their hands and reinforces the fact that parents should maintain awareness of what's being exposed to their children. The decision on whether or not this episode should be viewed by a child is one that should be made by their parental guardian, not the company who was fine with it for 16 years. Again, the exact concept of a panty raid flew over my head as a child. I just saw a funny underwear joke, and it's not like the thought has crossed my mind to engage in one as an adult. If you're letting iCarly get away with a lot worse, with an adult revival to boot, you can perform this simple task, Nickelodeon. Or even as IGN suggested, just throw up a disclaimer. Like how Disney Plus has a 12-second disclaimer ahead of a few of their classic animated films for negative depictions and stereotypes. Just inform viewers ahead of time that the panty raid could be found inappropriate. Whether or not it should air on TV, I honestly don't know or really care either way. There's so much SpongeBob to go around on linear channels like Nick that viewers don't really have a choice in what episode they're going to watch in the first place. But on streaming, which is intended to have less restrictions and viewers are supposed to have the choice on what to watch, sweeping it under the rug is absolutely not the right answer. Good news, everyone! The Great Snow Race actually isn't lost to time. Although its original release with Mid-Life Crustacean is still unavailable on Prime, they re-uploaded the episode by itself and have also paired it up with Gary in Love. So now it's just on here 3 times, I guess. It's also important to note that on iTunes, although it says it's paired up with Mid-Life Crustacean, the synopsis is also clearly Gary in Love. So at least now people looking for that episode will get double the snail. Happy ending, I guess?
We interrupt this program for an important news announcement.
And then there's Kwarantined Krab, an episode that just boggles my mind for the sheer fact that they basically made an episode about coronavirus a year before coronavirus ruined our lives. Produced in 2019 and intended for a United States premiere in 2020, Kwarantined Krab sees a normal day at the Krusty Krab interrupted by the health inspector, who proceeds to declare the Krusty Krab as a health hazard, suspecting that someone on the premises is carrying the clam flu, a mysterious illness. As a result, we're given quite the bottle episode, with the main cast of characters quarantined inside the restaurant. Yeah, yikes. It only gets dicier. Squidward's against quarantine due to the notion that such a thing will make everyone sick eventually. Uh-oh. The cherry on top? The resolution of the episode is everyone finding out that the health inspector incorrectly assessed the situation, and there was no illness in the first place. But everyone still winded up getting sick from other things, except Plankton, who's removed for most of the episode and still winds up getting the clam flu. Wow, this is something. No fault to the SpongeBob crew. They were just doing their thing, minding their own business, and had no way of knowing how events in the world would unfold in a year's time. But man, I actually understand why Nickelodeon has had cold feet about this episode thus far. We already know that this pandemic has had some strong COVID deniers who are full-blown adults. So imagine children in the middle of 2020 watching an episode where Squidward claims quarantine will just make people sick, everyone does get sick, and the life-threatening illness wasn't even a real threat for anyone except the bad guy. who's a literal plankton. It's not like everyone else didn't get it because they took it seriously, but because of arguably dumb luck. Besides, I feel like seeing COVID hit the Bikini Bottom would be depressing for a majority of viewers at home who are seeking escapism. Maybe kids could find it relatable, but I sincerely doubt that that'd be the takeaway for most of them. If anything, it just come across as making fun of the reality of our situation, which isn't inherently bad. Yet since people have lost loved ones and jobs and all of this, it could easily come across as insensitive. Now, I do find it ridiculous that this episode has been removed from the release of the Season 12 DVD. Hopefully a future release can feature the episode, but I do want to acknowledge that it seems like Nickelodeon wants to air this episode eventually. In July of 2020, current co-executive producer and supervising director, Vincent Waller, stated that he'd be surprised if viewers saw the episode in the US anytime soon. But as of January 2021, Waller has stated, "We realize many children and their parents have been traveling through very scary times. In an effort to give them a safe place to find entertainment and escape from the current reality, the episode was shelved until the pandemic is in our rearview mirror, whenever we are past masks and social distancing." And honestly, good call. When this episode does finally premiere in the United States, in whatever capacity, I think the best way to handle it is to simply give the audience a disclaimer that outright states, "This episode was made in 2019. Any similarities to COVID-19 is purely coincidental." Whether that disclaimer makes its way onto TV, Paramount Plus, or the home release. This is a simple yet effective way to cover their bases, let the hard work of the crew be seen by the masses, and avoid pissing people off and enabling them to run wild on social media with whatever angle they have on why SpongeBob is propaganda now. And you know, not just this being a silly episode that happened to age rather poorly. But it's only been a year. We don't know how it'll age in 3 to 5 years, if not longer. And hopefully it can wind up on something like a Season 13 DVD down the road. Ultimately, you can't please everyone. We're all human beings who are built differently. But what you can do is choose the appropriate course of action in responding to those who don't see eye to eye, or may take offense to the work of art you created. How Nickelodeon has handled these episodes may not have been the best, but there's room for them to learn, improve, and correct themselves. Don't just bury it and wash your hands clean. The more Paramount Plus grows and nostalgic consumers seek out SpongeBob, the more that people are going to realize that Mid-Life Crustacean has been removed. And if anything, when we're talking business, now that people are getting vaccinated, Kwarantined Krab may actually be appealing to older viewers. Curious to see how SpongeBob pulled a Simpsons. Well, sort of anyways. But that begs the question, how would you have handled these episodes? Would you have removed them? Or would you have gone the re-rated route? Or just throw up a simple disclaimer? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And please be sure to give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram over at Roundtable Vids and me at OstricVods. If you enjoyed this video, please throw it a like and subscribe to the Roundtable for more Nicktoon content. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later. Peace!